All right, ladies and germs, love on the blockchain. That's right. And I want to thank a really good friend of mine, Max Ashley, and the incredible James Corbett for helping us make that great video. Thank you, guys. Now, who wants to see a panel? Who wants the panel? That's right. Please welcome to the stage my guests for the evening, Brittney, Joe, and Shaun. Come on up, everybody. Yes, have a seat. All right. And this is where, Jimmy Fallon becomes Charlie Rose or something. This is the moment it all changes. This is something that I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have Googled already, but if you could just, starting with you, Joe, go down the line and introduce yourself a little bit, and also how you got involved in this industry, and I guess, because why the hell not, how you would most simply define blockchain tech.
So my name
5 seconds.
My name's Joe Lang. I lead offering management for market solutions and financial services and blockchain. I was previously at R3. I helped found the first blockchain consortium. And actually, I got into blockchain because I met someone on a blind date in 2014. And he ended up being my first co-founder.
Nice.
My dad said I needed to learn how to date better.
Yeah, right. Or you're like the star of the next video. I feel like that was
That too.
Yeah.
I would say blockchain is certainty and therefore removing the cost of uncertainty, which is the biggest cost driver for pretty much any enterprise, big or small.
I'm Brittney Laughlin. I'm a partner at Lattice Ventures. We invest in early stage technology companies, and we believe in the power of network effects, which the blockchain has a number of. So we're super excited about the technology. Prior, I was at Union Square Ventures. We invested in Coinbase, Blockstack, MediaChain, IPFS, and a number of other blockchain companies. So when we first invested in Coinbase, they were the only people that weren't anarchists who came in to pitch us around blockchain wallets. So we got to see very early the people that were building these things and selling a lot of drugs on the websites, the dark web. So more simply, blockchain, the way that we look at it is a way to empower the edges. So people anywhere, no matter where they stand kind of in their ecosystem, they have access to contribute, to benefit, and to transact.
Hey, my name is Shaun Frankson. I'm the co-founder of the Plastic Bank. So at the Plastic Bank, we make plastic waste a currency for change, and we're on a mission to stop ocean plastic while reducing global poverty. And we do this by creating systems where we can have reward and incentive systems where someone can just go out in a developing country and pick up the plastic waste that's abundant around them and use it as a way to provide for their families and even pay for their children to go to school. And we create these recycling reward ecosystems around the world where people can act as collectors, people can run recycling businesses, or even just storefronts where anyone can afford what you're selling because you can recycle around you. And we recycle this plastic and we sell it to some of the world's largest companies to use as social plastic. And this is how we have the world's largest corporations help contributing to provide the value in plastic to make it too valuable to enter the ocean. And this is something that we use blockchain as a way of how do we remove the cash and the danger in these recycling systems to have a safe and trusted token-based currency and a token-based exchange system. And if I'm really trying to simplify blockchain, I think it's just a data storage system that's simply the most trusted and secure way to instantly approve and record any exchange of value. I'd say ignore Bitcoin, ignore miners, exchange of value, it's a trust stamp, that's what blockchain is.
Nice, look at that. Joe, let's start back with you for a second. The subject for our evening is obviously blockchain for business. Now, who is using blockchain at that kind of corporate level, and how is it being used in the market?
So the obvious answer would be the banks and financial services. That's where I am, but we were doing a ton of work, really good stuff with anything from food safety, supply chain, healthcare, government as well. I'd say that it's really changing the paradigm where most costs, as I mentioned earlier, come from the cost of uncertainty. That's why you have middlemen who you supposedly trust more. Now you don't need them because you can trust the information that you're using. We can empower communities at a much lower cost to communicate, transact with each other. You can answer questions such as, do I trust who I'm transacting with? It may not even matter. Do I know where these diamonds come from? Are they blood diamonds? Do I know, is this person even authorized to sell this piece of artwork to me? All of these questions you can start to answer once you have a blockchain network that you have verified. And this completely changes, and I'm excited to see not just how we can fix or, update new businesses, existing businesses, but also change the paradigm and see what comes out of it. And I'm really excited to be a part of that with IBM.
Nice. Do you have anything you want to add to that? Or? Because Shaun, I have another question for you, buddy. Shaun Franks, you've said that we need to change our thinking from plastic as waste to plastic as value. So that's a big idea. How engaged were you in the blockchain community, like while you were kind of having that idea, before you actually thought this is the kind of business I should be in and the kind of thing I should devote my life to?
Yeah, we took a little bit of a learn first, act second approach, went around the world, saw what's working, and really, when we look at how do you stop ocean plastic, it starts with why is it going in the ocean? And I look at, there's really two paradigms that we look at. First, that if you walked into a kitchen and the sink was overflowing, water's pouring on the floor, and all you have is a bucket and a mop, what do you do first? And the answer is you go and turn off the tap. And when we look at ocean plastic, first thing we need to do is turn off the tap. And if we just look at a second idea that if every piece of plastic was worth $5, there would be no plastic on the ground on this planet. The only reason it's going in the ocean is people have that perception that it's waste. So this is when we look at how do we reveal the value in plastic, which then ties into the system of how do we do it globally in a way that we can just put enough money in the hands of the people collecting and remove the risk factors, remove the dangers, remove the middlemen involved that take away from the value that that person gets. And this just, when we're looking at how do we exchange value with trust, provide savings to the unbankable, to me, blockchain is the only solution that we have the luxury of just being able to start with the best technology available and do it right from the beginning.
Sure, but there's sort of two levels of recognition, right? There's recognizing that waste can be, that what goes in the ocean can have enormous value. And then there's recognizing that there's a kind of immutable transaction network that can underlie that. Has that been a tough sell? I mean, you so rarely hear about sort of organizations that like have two major quasi-impediments as you start. You're changing people's minds about two big ideas right away.
Yeah, well, I think it's one that works for our cause because, again, just how do you provide these systems? How do you have corporations put money into something to know there's going to be an impact? How do you have people contribute to a program that's new? And again, this is for us, blockchain is that trust stamp, especially when we're working with an IBM blockchain, we're working at something that can scale to millions of users instantly with trust.
Interesting, thank you. Brittany, Lattice Ventures is a network-driven VC firm, and you look for companies developing technologies that are, quote, defensible via network effects. Could you explain a little more about how you shaped this investment thesis and where blockchain, I mean, you touched on this before about the edges, but where blockchain kind of fits into this mission?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we get excited about is how powerful technology can be and how much it can actually have an impact on people's lives. Starting this firm, I was kind of sick of seeing more food delivery businesses come up. Like, you can only see 10 pitches in 1 week to realize, like, you don't need that much food delivered. Like, all your meals are covered. So when we were thinking...
Fruitrollup.io.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, there were 3 different apps that only delivered pizza to you with, like, a click of a button. So we thought a little bit bigger of, where there's still places where technology hasn't touched, where it could actually have a really big impact on people. And we see that as financial services. There are a number of people in the US that have no financial relationship with a bank or a provider. It's hard to access them. There's a lot of infrastructure required. And so that's where we see blockchain could be a really useful tool because it's cheaper to deploy, it's easier to maintain the ledgers. There isn't a ton of auditing that needs to be done because it's already built into the system. So we get really excited to see people building those companies early on so they can eventually serve big corporations. We see that also in other things like being able to provide skills So labor is one of the largest drivers of GDP in this country. People working, getting paid. So how do you empower everyone to have that same access? We think that the blockchain is a great way to be able to serve your skills immediately, and no matter who you are, what you look like, if you can contribute to the system, you can extract value, which is pretty huge when you think about the impact on diversity, when it doesn't matter how old you are, where you live, or what you look like in order to contribute.
Sure. And let's stay with you, and then, but we'll start with you, but this is for the whole group. Let's just pull back for a second. What is the most significant feature / capability of blockchain as you see it right now? What is the industry you're most excited? You spoke a little bit about financial services. Most excited to sort of upend and or improve tremendously via blockchain?
Yeah, well, who in here like owns cryptocurrency at all? Ethereum, Bitcoin? Yeah, so it's the Wild West out there right now. So I'm sure a lot of people...
we also have some government officials in the front row, ladies. You want to keep those hands down.
Made money, lost money. And I think the thing that I'm most curious about is how you build trust and security around this new technology, because I think the technology will be one of the biggest drivers of innovation over the next 10 years. But if we don't get security right early, it'll scare off a lot of people. So it's not only built on the blockchain, but it's built around the blockchain. And I think that if infrastructure will be the biggest thing that we're excited about, because if you build infrastructure people trust, then a lot of other apps can be built on top of the blockchain.
Yeah, I think personally, if I'm looking at what I'm most excited with blockchain, I think if we can automate accounting, use smart contracts to automate legal processes, we could have a world with no accountants and no lawyers. And I think less lawyers will make a very good place.
I would just like to say on behalf of one of our partners tonight, no accountants, no lawyers is not the official philosophy of IBM Blockchain. I don't know.
I think there are two major things that I'm excited about. One, I think one of the most important things blockchain has done is it's forced this new era of collaboration and co-opetition, recognition that you can't do things by yourself, and you're probably best off partnering even with your frenemy, which is how I would describe most banks, working together, which is interesting. But more importantly, I really am passionate about financial services and providing access to emerging markets and what you can do with the validation and the trust that allows, whether you are the World Bank or the young woman with your mobile phone, you have access to financial services, and it allows us to be more flexible in how we offer it. The paradigm of banking, of the ATM, and the actual physical place doesn't have to be anymore once we have blockchain and the trust that allows us to instill. And then the sky's the limit once you can actually get paid.
As founders, Shaun, could you actually manage your organization right now without a technology-enabled trust-based system? I mean, how essential is the work you're doing with IBM, the work you're doing in the blockchain space, to growing what you've been working on the last several years?
Yeah, no, it's definitely critical for us. I mean, if you just try to set up, one recycling initiative at a time, you can have a handful of initiatives. But the only way to stop ocean plastic is to have hundreds of millions of pounds being collected, hundreds of millions of rewards being distributed. And the only way, we get swarmed with people asking, how do we bring the plastic bank to your country? Where our answer is just download the app. The app will build the ecosystems, but we have a digitally secured way to expand globally. And without the technology, there is no expansion. And without the expansion, plastic still enters the ocean.
Yeah. Got it. Joe, can you talk a little bit about what IBM has to offer in the blockchain space right now? These collaborations are exciting, and I hear like startups being enabled by major corporates. I hear about your life having both built a consortium of corporates and now what you're doing. How difficult is it, I guess is my sub-question, after you answer the first one, which is how exciting is it? What are you guys working on?
So IBM has been committed to empowering the community, both the industry and the individual developers, with the starting of Hyperledger. We are just launching our IBM Blockchain platform in beta, which will allow developers to actually, build and deploy blockchain networks supported by enterprise services. The same supported infrastructure, by the way, that 75% of the world's financial transactions go through today. So I think that's pretty amazing, as well as we have our founder networks where we actually work with these new networks to actually seed them and provide expertise both from a technical standpoint and a business standpoint to not only build the MVPs but to actually prove them, which I think is pretty amazing. And there'll be more announcements. This is only the beginning. I've only been at IBM for 4 months, so stay tuned.
We're all judging you. Brittany, how do you think, this is something that I think about a lot in your line of work, how do you think blockchain technology itself can shape or alter the VC industry, right? Yeah. Knowing what we now know about trust, accountability, auditability, and the VC-founder relationship, it's so relationship-based, it's so based on the openness of a transaction. Yeah. How do you see your job actually being either disintermediated or supported by blockchain?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think a lot of it's being asked in the public right now with ICOs. Everyone familiar with ICOs? Okay. Like initial coin offerings.
You know what? Someone who might have wooed it just now is probably an accountant. I'm just saying, Shaun. I'm just saying. We know our audience,
yeah, I don't think we'll get rid of lawyers or accountants anytime soon. They will just adapt to charge us a lot of money for their expertise in this space, which is good, hopefully. So I think with venture capital, what our job is to seed ideas from the beginning when there isn't any proof that it will work. So our type of capital is really important when you need initial capital to build a business. And so as long as there are good ideas or new ideas coming out, I think we'll still be in business. But it definitely changes our dynamic when you can go out to a community you've already built and say, hey, I'm building this project. Do you want to own a piece of it by buying a token? And then just crowdsourcing from a lot of different people. That can actually remove venture capitalists from the equation. You don't need us anymore. I think with regulation changing, that will kind of no longer be the case. I think now they are looking for people to be accredited instead of just individuals. So regulation will make it harder. I think it'll push back to venture capitalists. I think the value add as a VC is being able to help entrepreneurs think about how do you grow a business? How do you scale a team? How do you work in a trustless, decentralized system where no one is your employee per se, but they're contributing to your project? So there's a lot of new questions that I think you're going to want a VC around the table that has seen 10 of these businesses and they have insights that no one else has. So I think you'll see lots of VCs go in this direction slowly. You'll see lots of hedge funds go in this direction with cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of capital moving, and that's usually where we want to be. And we hope that we can continue to build communities around these projects so that they are successful over time, because everyone wins when the ecosystem grows and expands.
Nice. I think finally, we often overestimate where we're going to be in 20 years and underestimate where we're going to be in 2 years vis-a-vis technology and technology-enabled products. Starting with you, Joe, going down the line, in 5 years from now, right, 2022, what do you think and what do you hope blockchain will have done to our world?
Fundamentally, I hope that you no longer have to wait 2 weeks to get a payment. And I say that just because it is so complicated, and that I want access to funds to be changing. I want data and data governance to be a given, not a privilege, of the fact that you work at a company that actually is a steward of their data, and they use things like blockchain, where then as a result we can actually take advantage of the great leaps and bounds of artificial intelligence and all sorts of things, which until we can trust our data, it's a little dangerous to feed, potentially wrong information to a robot.
I've seen a Black Mirror about that, I think.
Yes. So when we initially got in this space, we tried to come up with what are the crazy ideas you can imagine using the blockchain or a microtransaction for. And the thought was driving down a highway in your driverless car and being able to speed past the car next to you because your car has made a contract and negotiated and signed it with the other car saying, I'll pay you, extra coins if you let me pass at this point versus not. So thinking of things like that where the machines can negotiate on our behalf without us ever having to verbalize that transaction, and you can kind of put lots of inputs in the system using a trustless ledger. It doesn't matter if our cars are the same make or model, because they all belong to this ecosystem. So crazy things like that we're excited about.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that I'm kind of really excited about, and just we've looked into a lot of different ways that ID and biometrics will play in. And I don't think we're that far away from the day that I am my ID. Like, there is no cards, there is no wallets, there is no credit cards. But I just think of the simple concept of, if you could travel anywhere in the world and you could never get robbed, you could never lose things, you could never have a reason that your passport's gone and you're not in a country because you are yourself. And to me, everything I've seen with biometrics, whether it's eye scanning and all combined, like that's something blockchain can be used to just redefine what we consider ID, period.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, guys. Round of applause for them. Thanks for coming out and spending the evening with us. I guess we're going to strip the stage now. It's great to have you. And come on, another round of applause for them. They were amazing. Come on, guys. All right. And you also see you have your nice merch right there, right? A big round of applause, big thank you. This was a really fun thing. And now we're going to move on from the panel.
I could still hear you saying
No.
you wouldn't.
Mark, we don't have the rights. We don't have the rights. Anyway, in anticipation for our second video of the evening, we were learning a lot. Oh, man, I know what this music means.
I still have the message.
Dude.
Can I share it with
Bones, listen. I told you there's a process to this kind of thing, right? Haven't you read the Middleman Manual?
Yes. I'm halfway through it.
Don't encourage that. Don't encourage that. Listen, buddy, I know you're excited. I'm excited too, but there's a bureaucracy to this, as there is so often in life, and it's just not going to happen tonight, bud.
Oh, okay.
If only that young man's life were as devoid of bureaucracy as blockchain.
Don't worry, friends. The lonely boy will be back again.